Today I'm signing a historic executive order to combat the scourge of addiction and substance abuse.
Addiction is not a moral failure, it is a disease. It's chronic, it's treatable, and for too long our nation has responded with fragmentation, with stigmatization and silence instead of science, compassion, and coordination. Today, President Trump changes that with the Great American Recovery Initiative.
Addiction is a generational disease, and if we don't treat it properly, it repeats from parent to child, from community to community.
The White House launching a new initiative to address drug addiction, building on efforts to stem the flow of drugs into the United States, as administration officials share their firsthand experiences with addiction. Joining us now are the co-chairs of the Great American Recovery Initiative. We have Catherine Burgum, the White House Senior Advisor for Addiction Recovery, and the wife of our Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, along with Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. Good morning to both of you.
Morning,
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Secretary. I'll start with you because we hear Donald Trump talk about how he's never had a drink, never had a cigarette, never done drugs. So why is this so important to him?
Well, President Trump has talked very openly about his brother, Fred, whose life was upended by addiction. And all of us have, almost every American has some experience. Their lives have been impacted by addiction. My brother died of this disease during the pandemic. I lost a niece who was like a daughter who was living with me to this disease. Another one of my nieces is a paraplegic because of this disease. And I have many other family members. Catherine's life, both of us are in long-term recovery. My own life, I was a heroin addict for 14 years and have been in recovery for about 43 years. And this affects every American. It affects us morally. It's a disease of desolation. It's a disease of despair, of isolation. And it costs our economy about $820 billion a year. So it is a national security threat to us. And President Trump has elevated this now, where we're going to break down the silos. We're bringing together all of the agencies, Department of Labor, Department of Veterans Affairs, and HHS, and the Department of Education. And we have now a unified program. The response in the past has been balkanized, it's been fragmented and atomized, and it hasn't been working. And now we're going to address it in a way that is science-based, and that is compassion, and that is about restoring the relationship of addicts with their communities.
Yeah, I mean, Catherine, I was listening to your story, and it's incredible. Both of you have been so open and honest with America about your struggles, and we all can appreciate that because this touches every one of us in some form or fashion. Either we know someone, a friend or a family member, or ourselves. So thank you for your honesty. Catherine, what made you get to this point where you wanted to share your story and then help other Americans?
Well, as First Lady of North Dakota, for 8 years, I've been talking about my story, but I didn't talk about it at all until I became First Lady because of the shame and stigma. And for 8 years, I basically said, let's talk about it because the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to eliminate stigma is just to talk about it. So we had a movement in our state and we reduced stigma by 20%. But this is really about looking at addiction as a disease and focusing on it as a medical disease, a chronic medical disease, and then providing the opportunity for recovery and ensuring that people understand that there is recovery available through treatment and other options. And so, and this is a big deal for this administration because Susie Wiles's dad, Pat Summerall, struggled with addiction. J.D. Vance, obviously his mother, and as Bobby said, the president's brother, Fred. And so for me, I just thought this is the time, this is the opportunity, and if not this administration, when will it happen where we can actually help as many people as possible who struggle with the disease of addiction? Over 190 million people are impacted by addiction across our nation.
Wow. I know you talked about how you started drinking in high school. A lot of Americans can relate to that. And it just led to more and more. And I think you suffered from it for 20 years until You were walking one day, you said, I wasn't religious, and I just said, God, if you're up there, help me out, and you haven't had a drink since. So congratulations on that. Mr. Secretary, both of y'all talk about how addiction, it's not a moral dilemma. It is, or you shouldn't be ashamed of it, because it is actually a disease. It's like diabetes.
Yeah, it's not a moral failure, and that's one of the issues that Americans need to understand if we're going to actually address the disease. It is a disease like diabetes, like heart disease, like any of the other chronic diseases that people suffer from, and it's a disease of isolation. Addicts end up alone. They destroy their relationships, and they end up in jails, institutions, or death, but cut off from their families, cut off from their communities. And the process of recovery is really a process of regaining that connection to other human beings. And the faith-based community is very much an important part of our plan, but also recovery programs, 12-step programs, and then early intervention, actually going out in the street and finding people, and then long-term recovery. We're making giant investments in sober houses with Scott Turner over at HUD, so that people, once they kick the actual substance, that they have a place to morally and spiritually recover for a year or more if they need it.
So, Catherine, we have 1 minute, but if this is a question that we probably are going to need longer, but if you could just summarize, for people out there that are dealing with some sort of an addiction, how do you beat that?
Well, you basically have to have the courage to reach out for help, because people die because they don't reach out for help. And what we're going to do with this initiative is focus on, this is a medical disease. There should be no shame and stigma, because diseases don't have stigma. And so the opportunity is there if people have the courage to reach out. And, you know, as Bobby mentioned, the faith-based community is so important. You know, if you can't talk to anyone, talk to your, you know, someone in your faith community, and they can help get you connected. But the important thing is just reach out and not to be ashamed, because this is a medical disease and it deserves treatment like any other chronic medical disease.
And the president signed the executive order. Y'all are going to be advising federal agents. Y'all are have a panel that will advise them on abuse prevention, intervention, treatment, recovery, and support. And you will also issue grants to support addictive recovery and education. I remember the words of Nancy Reagan when we were growing up. We all wore the pins and just say no. And that really influenced all of our lives. So thank y'all for doing this. Maybe this administration can do that. Y'all are doing a great job. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ainsley.
You're welcome.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.